Welcome everyone to the release of of the the resolution on race, racism, and climate reparations in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Thank you so much. So my name is Jackie Patterson, and with me is Vithika Mwenda, and we'll both introduce ourselves. I'm Jackie Patterson. I'm the executive director of the Chisholm Legacy Project, a resource hub for Black frontline climate justice leadership based in the United States.
Yes, my name is Mithika Mwenda, the Executive Director of the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. We have been running this global climate justice collaborative initiative together, and we launched it here in Egypt, and we hope it will really help in some of the perverse issues which we are finding here. The issue of racism is deep-rooted here, but not many people want to talk about it.
That's for sure. Thank you. Yes, and so actually back in 2015, the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, and at the time I was with the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People based in the United States, and we got together and we decided we wanted to launch this global Afro-descendant climate justice collaborative. At that time, it was the first year of the UN Decade of People of African Descent, and it was the pivotal year around the Paris Climate Agreement, as much as it wasn't quite as ambitious or nearly as ambitious as we would have liked. But that felt like the time to launch this initiative to really pull together people from across the African diaspora, from whatever nations that we're living in, to come together under common cause around addressing race from an Afro-descendant perspective. And so since then, we've had limited capacity to really keep the initiative going. And now with the rise of the Chisholm Legacy Project, we ourselves have developed more capacity to really partner with PACJA and organizations from across the world to pull together and relaunch the Global Afro-Descendant Climate Justice Collaborative. So we're very excited about that. And so one of the first initiatives that we are doing is advancing this race, racism, and climate reparations in the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The whereas clauses kind of lay it out. And if you haven't seen it, feel free to check out either of our websites. You'll find the resolution there. But we talk about how race and racism renders Afro-descendant populations across the globe systematically more at risk for impacts from both the drivers and the impacts of climate change. So when we talk about the drivers, the very polluting facilities that drive climate change are disproportionately located in our countries and in our communities if we're living in non-Afro-descendant communities. We know that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change sixth assessment report listed colonialism not only as a driver of the climate crisis, but also as an ongoing dynamic that exacerbates community risk. We know that the World Conference Against Racism calls for investments in safe and healthy environments, citing the disproportionate exposure to unhealthy environments due to racism for Afro-descendant populations. We know that due to the practice of multinational and interconnected nature of white supremacy, which produces the extractive global economy, that we see these impacts worsening. We know that in this context of this particular UNFCCC COP27, that we're talking about loss and damage, and we know who is most experiencing loss and damage, and we know that we have to get real and talking about loss and damage in the context of climate reparations. So we also know that the country, out of the 10 countries that were deemed to be most at risk for climate change in terms of climate change impacts, in terms of impacts, whether it's flooding or disasters or drought or otherwise, Notre Dame and the German Watch declared that out of those 10 nations, 7 of those nations are in Afro-descendant nations: Haiti, Chad, Malawi, Niger, Kenya, Somalia, and Sudan. So these are the basis for which, and these are detailed in the whereas clauses of the resolution. This is the basis for which we decided we wanted to launch this resolution on centering race, racism, and climate reparations in the context of the UNFCCC. Thank you. And in the whereas clauses, in the be it resolved clauses, and we have another person joining us from one of the very nations that were named. Thank you so much. And so in the Be It Resolved clauses, we talk about needing to call out having a focal point on racial justice as part of the UNFCCC process. We know that we have focal points on indigenous rights. We have focal points on gender justice. We have focal points on trade unions. We have focal points on multiple issues, but not on colonialism, racial justice, racism, which is so critical to this conversation. We also call out the need to have a constituency group where we all come together as Afro-descendant nations and other racialized peoples who are most impacted. So pulling together a constituency group so that we can begin to build a common cause, common demand, and concentrated power to advance what we want to advance. And finally, we know we want to actually have measures around addressing racism and colonialism in the context of the measures of the UNFCCC. So those are just to give a bit of a basis on the framework. And so I want to make sure that everyone has a chance to look at this either at our website, which is www.chisholmlegacyproject.org, or at the PACJA website, which is www.pacja.org. And so I want to introduce, so Camila, yes, we all introduced ourselves at the beginning. Do you want to introduce ourselves now? Yourself now?
So, hi everyone. My name is Camila Camilo. I'm from Brazil. I've been working with English communities and also Black traditional communities for 5 years. It's a pleasure for me being here with you.
Thank you so much. So we're going to just hear a little bit from both Mathika and from Camelia about your why you think that this resolution is important, and why do you think centering race, racism, and climate reparations in the UNFCCC and beyond is critical.
Yeah, I'll start by saying that the legacy of slavery, the legacy of colonialism, and the legacy of racism manifest themselves in different forms, and it depends and defined by power relations, which we experience every time, including in multilateral processes like the ones which we are at UNFCCC. The Afro-descendants and the people of African descent, as recognized by the UN Decade of people of African descent, really, we find ourselves in very disadvantaged positions in terms of decision making and in terms of even the resource management and the resource sharing and the solutions thereof, in terms of how we need really to define our future. And so, as part of this emerging initiative, we are faced marginalization. Our governments face marginalization in multilateral processes like this, and it manifests itself even within us Africans, for instance, where we find ourselves even refuge. Even at the civil society level, you look at where you have voice, even the power ascertained and power relations, you find that it demands. So it is so broad. We are very quick in talking about climate justice, even within the movements, but you find at the end of the day, there are those who are more really marginalized than others. We face marginalization at the governmental level, at global south level, and even at the people level. And the tragedy is that we never like to talk about these things. So we are going to be quite brave enough, working with our brothers and sisters from Brazil, from the United States, from Europe, from elsewhere, Asia and those others, so that we expose this really racism, not only at this process, but even others. We have just started. I'm very happy the petitions which we launched in change.org has received overwhelming support, and we will keep discussing this, and at the end of the day, we want us to be recognized, even in the processes. It's not enough when you go into the constituencies. Here at the UNFCCC, you find that you are lumped in a constituency, but a constituency you do not have voice. At one point, we are going to fight for a constituency of Afro descendants because that's where we find our voice. There are so many demarcations here, but you go and just you are filling the chairs. That we are rejecting that, and we've started fighting for climate justice. Opened the space for this process. We are not going to shy away also to fight for really our voice in this, because we face marginalization everywhere, not only at governmental level, not even at civil society level. So these things should stop, and that is the basis for this Afro Descendants initiative. It is not only limited at here, at the UNFCCC level, at the COP. No, it is just a process which continues beyond here, and in every space we find ourselves. Thank you very much. And we are very happy to work with our colleagues whom we share, origin at different levels, at different spaces. So this is just the beginning, and thank you very much.
So Brazil was the last country to ending slavery. And after that, for over 100 years, we still build our systems to marginalize black people. So this solution for us is the world saying, okay, we know the problem and we know the solution. Now we need to act. A friend of mine says to me one day that climate change was the second wave of colonization, just because it's continuing to push us aside of the decisions of those spaces to create solutions. But actually, we have the knowledge to sustain and maintain the world better. So I'm here trying to fight for something that my ancestors did way better than me. So now I think we are here just to honor this legacy. This resolution is an answer for this legacy. So I'm more than happy to spread the word when I back home, and because we are still paying the price for the other people's choices. But now it's time for us to make our own choices. And these choices, it starts with this resolution saying to the world that we are not allow them talk about us without us. So no more talking or doing things or deciding things about us without us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we want to also lift up those of you who are in the room, because we know you are leading on the type of solutions that we need to advance climate justice from an Afro-descendant perspective. And there's folks who I see here that I know, folks who I don't know, but definitely shouting out Reverend Woodbury and Loretta, Dr. Adrian Hollis, Reverend Brendolyn Jenkins, and Susanna Tuttle, who is a great, Reverend Susanna Tuttle, who is a great movement support person in our work. And the person who's really been anchoring the relaunch of the Afro-Descendant Climate Justice Collaborative is here, Denise Abdul Rahman, and she has been really just holding it down, not only, yes, thank you, holding the meetings every week, but holding it down here as well. So, and there's some other folks who I don't necessarily know, but we know because you're here, you're down for the cause. So we appreciate all the folks who are listening out there as well, all the 41 nations that are represented so far in the Global Afro-Descendant Climate Justice Collaborative, and all the people who have joined newly, either signing on to the resolution or others who have signed on to the collaborative. So we expect that we will be doing so much more in and this is only the beginning of this phase of our work, and so we invite everyone. And so we only have about 4 minutes left, but if there are any questions of folks in the audience or anything you'd like to say, we would welcome that. See, Reverend yes, thank you. She's got it. He's got it.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Sister Jackie. To the young lady from Brazil, can you tell me, how do you feel about your newly elected president's statement about the Amazon? And is that an initiative that you are embracing? Is it enough? And if it's not, what would you need to see more?
Thank you.
Yesterday was for us a turning point of our history. The past 4 years in Brazil has been awful, especially for those who are fighting for the planet. The speech of our elected president says initial things is not enough. We need to do way more, but start with the Ministry of Indigenous People. Start with discuss climate justice and climate governance is something really powerful. Has a bunch of initiatives in Brazil, but right now we need command and control to guarantee the illegal mining out of our forests. We need to stop deforestation right now, and this must be by force because the indigenous communities, they are like suffering. Women has been raped, the kids has been like killed. Every day we are hearing on the news horrible things happening in Amazon. The Brazil Civil Society present this year a climate and development vision, a proposition by the civil society for the government about how they can work to address the challenges, not just for indigenous, but also for the quilombolas and black communities living in urban areas. So President Lula are available to listen. I was in a room like 1 hour ago just talking to him, the whole civil society, Brazilian civil society that are here at COP. We were together with the president sharing our thoughts and projects.
Let me, we have only 1 minute, and my sense is that the defeat of Bolsonaro and the near whitewash of the Republican Party in the United States and Trump himself is encouraging for us, and we hope that people mobilize for us so that we gain power. It is that power which assures us of our future, because the right-wing movement, the extremists, are dangerous for democracy, for the planet, and for anything. Thank you.
Thank you all, and please join us in signing the resolution. Please join the Global Afro-Descendant Leadership Initiative on Climate Justice, or the Global Afro-Descendant Climate Justice Collaborative. Please sign on to the resolution on race, racism, and climate reparations in the UNFCCC and beyond. Thank you all for joining us. Take care.